Welcome back to the Night Shift, your safe space for talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, and everything else your friends, family, and coworkers are so sick and tired of hearing you go on and on about. Hey, gang. There we go. The first 3 minutes are the best. Somebody said that in the comments. The first 3 minutes of the show. They really are. By the way, hang on. This like weird feedback in my headphones. By the way, that music was written and performed by our very own Xander Jones. There's no AI there. That's all real. That noodling, that's Xander. It's the human touch. That's what we try to bring to YouTube. How's everybody doing? It's Members Only Wednesday, April 15th. It's 2:06 p.m. on the East Coast. And what is Members Only Wednesday? Hang on, let me get my screen sorted out here. That's my chance to come here and hang out with our members, our channel members. This is a public stream, but a private members only chat. So that's what we do. Huge thank you to all the members of Team Night Shift. If you are a member of this YouTube channel and you help support the work that we do, I want you to know it means everything. It literally makes it possible to come here and do this. Every YouTube creator, every podcaster faces the same dilemma. Every month, streams and views can come and go. They rise and fall, and it's not consistent. And when you're trying to make something happen on a larger scale, you have to put in the time. And the time, it's just time and repetition over and over again and refining it as you go. And to do that, you need a reliable, stable platform every month to build on. And that's what membership does. If you're a member of the channel, your membership goes to pay for all of the subscriptions, all of the different pieces of software. Just the Adobe suite alone is like $100 a month. All the different AI subscriptions that are required to do all of this stuff. There are just a lot of different apps that you need to pull this off. And it takes a tremendous amount of time. I don't think anybody really realizes how much time we put into this, but I was talking to the rest of the Night Shift Doomer Friday guys, and we were I talk to them all the time. We're in a couple of chats, but I was talking to Xander about how he handles his channel, Dreamland Motel. And he's putting out one really concentrated piece every week. And that takes so many hours. If you knew how much time it took, you wouldn't want to do this. Especially if you've got kids. It's just such an inconsistent, weird schedule to try and make work with everything else that goes on in a week. So all that is to say, thanks for being a member. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for showing up every week and being part of what we're trying to do here. And a huge thank you to everyone on our Discord. Um, that is a community that has been growing by leaps and bounds, and we have a very awesome, dedicated team of mods there. The mod squad, they are outstanding. If you've spent any amount of time on the Discord, you have interacted with our mod team at one point or another, and they are just the best of the best. We really do truly have the best community of any extremely niche UFO related podcast on the internet. But that's something to be proud of. That's not nothing. That's huge. This space is a mess. We've got the coolest people all kind of here. So that's because of you guys. People want to be around other cool people. So thank you for that. And finally, a huge thank you to everybody on Patreon. Our Patreon special projects division tier. We're about to kick off something new over there. I'm doing something different with Patreon, trying to figure out how to kind of differentiate between the YouTube world and the Patreon world. And we're going to start doing monthly calls, a monthly conference call with our special projects division tier members. And this first call, we're going to kick off in a couple of days here, as soon as we agree on a day and a time. We're going to be talking about contact in the desert. As you know, or I'm sure most of you know, the night shift away team is going to be going to contact in the desert. We've all booked our tickets. We're flying in from all over the world. Well, Dan's driving because he's a West Coast guy, but everybody else is traveling to be there. So we're very excited to spend some time at contact and to get to meet everybody that's going to be there. We're going to cover the event both in our own sort of group format, but then individually, we're going to be doing our own things as well. So it's going to be really exciting. And while we're there, the idea is I want to talk to you guys about what it is you're interested in, what you want to know, who do you want to hear from, what questions do you have? If you could be there, if you can't be there, and you could be there, what would you want to ask these folks? And since we're going to be there for you, what can we ask them for you? So that's what the first call is going to be about. And we're going to be doing this every month going forward to just talk about what's going on with the expanded night shift universe, the other things that we're working on as we develop some of these other cool ideas. So if you want to be a part of that, you can go over to Patreon and join the special projects division. And you get special discounts on merch and everything. Behind the scenes, one-on-one calls, it's all there. Okay, guys. Today, what are we going to talk about? There's a lot going on. Hang on a second. Let me close. I have so many tabs open. Where are my comments? There we go. I thought Fawn Miller. Hey, Fawn. I thought he just said night shift university. Night shift university. It's like, what's that university that's in strip malls next to like wherever there's a Chili's, like a little office in there where you can go. And those wasn't Trump University like that? There used to be a lot more of these, I remember at one time, and then I think they all got busted for being scams. But yeah, this weird like whatever university that doesn't have a real accreditation in anything. No, we're not doing that. Old Nick says, I haven't seen Chris for ages. Are you talking about Chris Hovard? Yeah, Chris, we miss you. Chris, what's going on? I have to call Chris. Chris is the leader of our mod squad, and he had taken a break from doing mod duties for a little while. He had some sort of personal stuff he was taking care of, so I know he stepped away for a little bit. But everybody here has been asking about you, Chris, so come back soon. Hope all is well. And Grelch, I really want to go to Contact, but my daughter is graduating from high school. You know, you'll get pictures of that. Someone will get video of it for you. It's okay. She would understand if you go to Contact. No, don't go to contact. Go to the graduation. Who else? Dana, contact in the desert is way too much money. It is indeed. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially this lately with the cost of travel and everything else that's going on. There's a lot involved. It's a big lift to get out there, but that's why we're going. So you don't have to, and you just let me know what you want to ask, and I'll try to work it in. Oh, Zoltanium. Okay, I see your message here. All right. Bob. I think this whole admin must have gone to Trump you. Okay, guys, I'm catching up on all your messages here. So I want to talk about a couple different things today, and I was just doing some research on this in our archives, and there is a story that popped up, and it's blowing up on UFOB, which is one of my favorite subreddits, and these guys are on fire over there. I don't know if you've seen this, but take a look. Here it is. The post. Here's the post. It's at 6,000 upvotes right now, which is pretty amazing on UFOB. That's a pretty badass post. This is the picture. It says alleged CN-235 MPA camera leak shows a star-shaped object / UFO hovering over the ocean, purportedly somewhere in Indonesia. And in the comments, someone points out that this first shot appears to be an AI re-rendering at a higher resolution of the following image. This is not the actual image, but it's here to show you kind of what the actual image would look like if you had a clearer picture of it. And you can see this is the original image. It's not as high res. It's certainly got some artifacts and JPEG, whatever. It looks like it could have been photographed on a screen and then zoomed in quite a bit. It's very low res. So when you go back to this one, it's a pretty faithful recreation. But that's the photo. Here's another shot of something that appears to be similar. This one was posted by Jeremy Corbell a while ago. And then here's another, I believe this is a actual image with redacted, like a heads up display with redacted information here on the sides. That's what these look like. One person in the comments pointed out that this looks really unsettling. Like it's just very, a lot of commenters said it looks like the ship that Superman came to Earth in. And another commenter that was getting a lot of upvotes was saying that it looks really unsettling and just weird. And I would have to agree with that one. It feels very alien to me. It's got a very awkward, sort of weird vibe to it. Yeah, let's see. Comments. The first picture is an AI upscale of the second one that has been circulating the subs. Yeah. Alternative Spray says, for what it's worth, man, I saw something very similar to this and managed to capture horrible footage of it the second day I saw it. The difference is only that what I saw looked like a single star anise in a plasmoided bubble. Like star anise T. Okay, I haven't seen anything in any of the subs which has depicted so closely what I saw in late November 2022 from Sky Camp in Point Reyes National Seashore. While the images may be upscaled, I believe there is some actual reality behind this leak in particular. I am just an internet rando who is obsessed with whatever all this phenomenon is. Sergeant Pepper's Last Stand says we got to stop using the term AI upscaled. It implies it actually does anything helpful when in reality it's just generating out of nothing. It's not enhancing or finding new information. It's recreating it. That's a great internet meme from 20 years ago. Let's enhance. Yeah. Babe Lincoln says, why does this thing freak me out so much? Yeah. It's pretty unsettling. If that's real, if this is a thing, I don't know what to make of it. What do you guys think? 6,000 upvotes on UFOB. That's huge. REM album cover. Mr. Doubtfire says REM album cover. Here, let's see if I can get these up on the page. Here we go. How's that? Better? It's the end of the world as we know it. Thanks, Matthew McMillan. Paris Diamond says prop. Chris Sharp's Zoltanium. Chris Sharp's article from yesterday is nuts. I haven't read his article yet. This is me catching up. I've been rushing to finish editing this Richard Dolan interview, which I am going to post tomorrow. I finally got it done, and that took right up to the very last minute before today's stream. So I haven't caught up on Chris's article, but I'm going to have to take a look at that. What about the 46? This is Stephen Daedalus. What about the 46 videos that were supposed to be released today or tomorrow? I mean, these days, something new about that. Yeah. So supposedly the deadline ran out this week for Congress or for the Department of Defense to release 46 or 40 some odd videos that had been requested and that they were supposed to release. And then the response from Anna Paulina Luna, when they said, she inquired about it. They said, oh, your request got misfiled. It wasn't given to the right people. We're not sure exactly what happened to it, but we'll get right on it. And she said that, Luna said that that's really cute. Anybody who wants to play games can just take a hike. We're going to get those videos. And that's the most recent information that I have. I don't know if there's been any further developments, but that was as of this morning. So as you would expect, the Pentagon is not very quick to release anything they have on UFOs or UAPs, even though it's been, I guess, ordered by the president. I mean, who knows anymore what's going on? The whole world seems like it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what we're doing in any aspect of our government or with regard to whatever is happening in the Middle East. I think it's anyone's guess. Whatever's happening in the UFO space regarding, with regard to this administration, I think is backburnered for right now. I don't know. That's probably the only thing they could use now to distract from everything else that's going on would be a UFO thing. But this is an issue with Congress, I think. On one hand, it's good that there is so much movement, and it's good that Luna and Burchett and Burleson and all of the other members of Congress who are working towards disclosure are moving forward on this. Like, that's important. That's good. We want that. And they're working together, and it is a bipartisan issue, which is unheard of. Yet here we are. But they don't know what they don't know. So they require the participation of whistleblowers in order to really find out where the bodies are buried so that they know where to go look. That's the first step. And as Matt Brown has pointed out in interviews with Jeremy Corbell and Privately, he's talked about the need for better whistleblower protections. And this is something that has been lacking for a long time. And so what happens is the whistleblowers will come forward or want to come forward. They'll be sitting on information that is key to Congress actually investigating and providing some form of oversight on these programs. You need the whistleblower to come from within the program and then shine some light on this. They're terrified to do it because as soon as they come forward, they're immediately out of a job. They have, these aren't folks that are, financially in a position to not have an income. They're just working folks like the rest of us, right? So their income is under threat, their security, everything that goes with that, your health care, not just yours, but if you have children, if you have family that depend on you, all of that stuff is riding on remaining employed. So you have people in positions where they actually are sitting on really critical information that Congress should know about and that they could investigate, they should have oversight on, particularly these programs that are funded in really bizarre, creative ways where it looks like it's one type of program, but then it's allocated to some other thing. All this opaque defense spending. And the people who are sitting on this information, they can't come forward because they're in danger of being completely cut out of any income for the rest of their lives. And if you have clearance, security clearance, that's as good as useless after you do this. Like once you make that leap, you are in a position, you're in a totally different category than you were before, as far as future employers are concerned. And that sucks for these people. It's the worst possible setup, and there's no incentive for them to. So when someone does come forward and say, like, you got to know about this, you need to understand that these programs exist and they are buried under some other name that is unrelated to what we're talking about here, and billions of dollars are being misallocated here. That's not happening. And so these folks are just kind of twisting in the wind. So the first thing that has to happen, I think, if you really want to see movement on this, is Congress has to figure out a way to create a better whistleblower protection safety net for these folks. And it needs to have aspects of personal security attached to it, like a witness protection thing, because these people are also under physical threat from unknown sources, people who just, do weird things to freak them out, scare them off. So you need some kind of physical security. You need some kind of financial security. You need, at the very least, some kind of a stipend for a period of time while they get legal counsel. You need, some guarantee of medical coverage for them and their family, or at least like a freeze on all of their benefits that they have until the matter is resolved in some way. Then none of this exists right now. And what's interesting about it is there was a guy who spoke at the September 9th hearings, and I wish I could remember his name, but he was an investigator who wasn't there to speak about UAPs directly, but he was there to talk about just indirectly the connection between whistleblowers and recovered funds that would have otherwise gone to waste. So the cost of taking care of a whistleblower, when you bring them in and give them protection and take care of them and make sure that you get the information you need to uncover the waste and fraud and abuse, usually the waste and fraud and abuse is orders of magnitude larger than the cost of whatever it is to take care of the whistleblower and make sure that they are okay. So, in other words, this program would pay for itself in multiples over and over again because of the fact that you would have so many people willing to come forward that are just, think about it. These people are regular working people. They're patriotic Americans. They're people who serve their country. They believe in a higher good, hopefully, if they're, like regular folks. And they see all the same bullshit that you and I do. They see the government. Like, look, the Trump administration, and I'm not trying to like just shit on Trump, but he's the president and it's all happening on his watch. But the Trump administration just asked, they want another $400 billion on top of the almost $1 trillion. They want a $1.5 trillion defense budget, while at the same time saying that They can't pay for daycare. We can't pay for school lunches for poor kids. We can't pay for X, Y, and Z, Medicare, Medicaid for old people, people who are injured and don't have, regular employment. Basically, like, we have to eliminate the entire social safety net to continue to pay for forever wars that lead to nothing and go nowhere. They don't benefit us, for sure. And there are people in that system that want to throw a monkey wrench into it. They want to see it come to a stop, and they want to come out and say, look, this is what's going on. This is the waste, fraud, and abuse. This is where money's being misspent. This is where Congress is being kept in the dark. This is where entire administrations are being left out of the decision-making chain on some of these programs. And programs that are so huge, so massive, and so deeply buried that the only way you can ever even know about them is if someone comes out from within and goes to Congress and tries to explain it. You need a David Grush. You need that level of person. And he's like one in a million. If you want to have success there, I just don't see any other way. I think it's important to figure out how you get there. And whistleblower protection is a bipartisan issue too, which should make it easier, right? Everybody agrees that both parties, people in both parties, are screwy and steal billions of dollars and misallocate funds. And, it's all rotten to the core anyway. So we should all have an interest in getting to the bottom of it and figuring out what exactly is going on. What do you guys think? Johan says Social Security. Yeah, they want to cancel Social Security. They want to come for Medicare. Carney's speech this week was awesome. The old ways are gone. Doom. Matthew McMillan. Doom. Well, it's, every cloud of doom has a silver lining. Big Dog says Trump is releasing a disclosure coin, yet hasn't disclosed anything. Is that official? Did that really? I thought that was just a rumor. I saw that there was a post online. I thought it was an AI created thing. Just curious. Juan. CCTV tape of Carney and Epstein at the Eaton Center in Toronto in the early 80s somewhere. 10 democracies, manipulative psychopath politicians versus wonderful but vulnerable, normal, empathetic people who will come into power. Think about that and act, I guess. Confirmed. Rockbridge Network, funded by Peter Thiel, includes Luna Burchett and Burleson, Vance Ticket, and Candace. Aliens or demons? Who are trying to consolidate a base of secular UFO folks? What? Okay, we'll have to dig into that. I need you to tease that out a little bit more for me. SV Harkin. Yeah. It is crazy, right? Like, it's not just me, right? The whole fucking world's gone off the rails. It's amazing how fast this is happening, by the way. I don't even know. It's been, when I spoke to Richard Dolan, it was like 2 weeks ago, and the ceasefire had just been agreed to. We were doing a 2-week ceasefire. It was like the day after. And I woke up that morning and that ceasefire had already been broken by Israel. By the time I talked to Richard Dolan at like 2:00 in the afternoon, the whole situation had changed. And for the first 30 minutes, I was just asking him questions about geopolitics, trying to understand what exactly was going on. And he was doing his best to sort of pack, 1,000 years of history into a 30-minute answer. But we had a really in-depth discussion about how all that is rolling out, and it just what a disaster by any metric that you choose to look at. There's just a complete and total shit show, and it's obvious that no one has any idea what they're doing. And I was just watching an interview yesterday with someone who made a great point. They were saying that China is just not going to stand by and allow the United States to keep fucking up the Strait of Hormuz and let this situation go on indefinitely. At some point, the rest of the world is going to say enough, and that's going to be a real problem. That's going to be a real problem. And has anybody else noticed that there's no footage of anything? We don't see anything that's going on over there. There's no real coverage of this. Has anybody else seen this? Like, am I missing something? When we went into the Persian Gulf in the early 1990s, Operation Desert Shield, Norman Schwarzkopf, best portrayed by Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live in the Evander Holyfield bit. I think Dennis Miller was doing Weekend Update at the time. But that war was on television 24 hours a day. It was the only thing on TV for years, like that whole build-up, the whole Desert Shield phase, and then there was Desert Storm, and then there was the aftermath, and then there was 9/11, and then there was Iraq 2. We go back, and just over and over, and it was just constant. But with this whole debacle in Iran, we have nothing to go on. There's no footage of anything, and the only thing I have seen is just nonsensical social media posts from leadership that are all contradictory and all over the place. Am I missing something? The media is bought and paid for. We are living in the upside down. It was like Hollywood for ducks. And okay. The moon mission was a massive letdown. Was it a massive letdown for you guys? Oh, okay. SV Harkin says Rockbridge was founded by Vance and Thiel to continue the MAGA movement without Trump as America First, with the goal of destroying democracy to replace it with their dark Enlightenment CEO rule. Here's the thing. I think America First it's not the problem. I think Democrats and Republicans largely agree. America first. Yeah, let's start here. Maybe start by investing in our own people. There's one way to put America first. Let's start by making sure everybody has access to health care. Affordable, free, universal, whatever, single payer health care. Let's just do that. If we can spend $1.5 trillion a year on defense, if that's something they think is possible, then we should be able to take care of health care for all people. Like, no questions asked. Why is this even a question? Haven't you ever lost your job? Haven't you ever had a family member who's been stricken with a horrible illness, or had cancer or something, and then suddenly they lose their job, and then they have no health insurance, and they're just left twisting in the wind, and it's like survival of the fittest over here. The least we could do is get on top of the fucking defense spending and slash that fucking military budget. Cut it in half. What the fuck is going on? Why are we spending $1 trillion a year on what? I mean, God, aren't you guys sick and tired of all this? Aren't you just over it? I'm fucking over it, man. The forever wars that just go on, and there's no reason or rhyme to it. And they always say the same shit. They're like, oh, well, we're going to pay for it all with their oil. We're going to get all of the money. It's going to be great. Just wait. You'll see. And it never is. It always turns into a complete debacle. Innocent people that have nothing to do with this always wind up getting massacred. And it's just embarrassing. And to the extent that it matters for a channel like this one, if you guys think that non-human intelligence is not paying attention to all this, they absolutely are. And at some point or another, we're going to have to turn our attention elsewhere and deal with them. It would be better, I think, if we spent our money and resources on building a more resilient planet Earth, figuring out how to unfuck some of the problems that are so badly out of control. But maybe we have to watch it all come crumbling down before we can rebuild. Johan is mad as hell and he's not going to take it. America First is a Trojan horse, fake populism to win elections. Vance and Thiel are the military-industrial complex. All Vance investments are space militarization. Well, that is the fact. Like the space is the where the next trillionaires will be made, right? AI and advanced humanoid robotics within 25 years are going to allow the full and total optimization and automation of almost all production jobs that involve any kind of industrial process, any kind of repetitive factory work. Like all of that is going to become essentially, you could think of it almost like one massive machine. There's going to come a point where that technology becomes so harmonized with all of its other component pieces, like supply chain all the way through final production and distribution, and served by a marketing and advertising apparatus that is going to be supercharged by AI and surveillance capitalism. And when these things are all combined, like the economy on Earth is going to bifurcate, I think, into two separate worlds. There's going to be the AI only electronic economy, and then there's going to be a human centric parallel economy that will exist solely for human beings who actually value each other's work. But the big money after that is going to come from getting out into the solar system and mining the asteroid belt, mining the moon for helium-3 isotope, going to Mars, setting up outposts, really owning the whole communication infrastructure between here and the rest of the solar system, so that as these other companies come online in the next decades and they use advanced AI and advanced automation, advanced robotics to expand humanity's footprint out into the solar system, like in the television, the excellent book series and TV series, The Expanse, is the most accurate, I think, representation of what you could expect over the next century. That's really where it's all going to happen. And so these guys know that, I think. Peter Thiel knows that. Elon Musk certainly knows that. Jeff Bezos knows that. And it's why I wonder if it seems logical to me that they would take an interest beyond idle curiosity in the rumors of advanced technology, non-human technology that has been locked up in some of these super classified, ultra classified programs. Elon probably already does know. If he does, I have no way of knowing, but I would assume that somebody with that many defense contracts and that close of a relationship with Space Force and with our defense apparatus, he and Peter Thiel would be the top two people who should know. Peter Thiel, I wonder how much backdoor access Peter Thiel has to the intelligence gathered by the systems that his companies administer, that are used by the American intelligence apparatus, right? Peter Thiel's software is what they use to conduct all of these really complicated operations around the world. It's hard to imagine that he couldn't just plug into that somehow. I don't know. I wonder if that's even realistic. It just seems like something that would be doable. Zoltanium, war, politics, and money is the poison of humanity. I wish everything worked like the TV series The Orville, where you pay everything with your reputation. Yeah, The Orville is a great show. It really is. The Orville is the best Star Trek show. He really gets it. They get it. That whole crew, that whole creative team, they understand. Uh, I wish, I hope that there is a TNG era series that comes at some future point, that they go back to the TNG era. And if I were doing it, I wouldn't update it. I wouldn't modernize it. I would keep it locked as if it's 1994. I would leave it exactly as it is. I would just pretend like that, like everything stayed just like that. We just kept going and made another series. There was another, actually, one time when I first started using ChatGPT, I asked it to give me an elevator pitch for a hit Star Trek TV series, and it blew my fucking mind. It gave me the best pitch ever. Um, this is a quick sidebar for Star Trek people. If you remember the Lost era, the whole maroon uniforms, Kirk, Spock movie, all the different movies, that period of time. There's an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation with Kelsey Grammer. He plays the captain of a ship that comes through some kind of temporal rift. Morgan Bateson is his name, Captain Morgan Bateson, and it's Kelsey Grammer, who was a big Star Trek nerd. And I guess he came in for like a day, and all his scenes were in a chair. He's sitting on the bridge, and he does. But that character should have a whole show. There should be a whole show based on that. And without boring you with the whole elevator pitch, that was the basic idea. I do love that episode. Chris Ramsey's in the chat. Hey, Chris, what's going on, man? By the way, hey, guys, Chris Ramsey, go over to Area 52 and pick up some merch. Chris's hats are the best. I only wear Area 52 hats now. I don't even wear my night shift hats because these are so comfortable. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. I wear this one everywhere. I love it. It's my favorite. Dana, I'm so sorry to hear that. Dana, I've been fighting cancer for the past 3 years, and my health care was taken away this year. Yeah, this is the trouble, right? This is the problem with America. Is not a country you live in. It's a video game. You have to survive. Like, that's how people feel. That's how people feel. And, people aren't having kids because of it. Who can afford to have kids? Who can afford to start a family? Who can afford to buy a house? Is that even an attainable thing anymore? I mean, and now the next step of this is there's this constant drumbeat of AI tech bro billionaires saying that basically we're going to automate all of the things that make life worth living, all the things you do, all the art and music that you make. We can just have a computer fart that out. And any task that you could ever get paid to do, we can automate that. To the point that the middle class will be functionally obsolete. The labor class, there won't be a labor class. You'll just be extra people left over. And then there'll be a completely vertically integrated economy that's going to be where labor is like a commodity, but it's robotic and it's automated. And so, you lease the robots, you lease a fleet of robots that come do the thing. It'll make entrepreneurship easier. It'll make, starting, but you'll have to have some kind of jumping off point or startup capital. And average people aren't going to be able to do that en masse. So there's a whole question about what happens when all these people, all of us, are automated out of a job. And I think the very first conversation that should happen is we have to figure out how to give everybody health care immediately. Like that. Why is that even still a debate? Bongstradamus. Yeah, think of labor as being an industry disrupted by tech. Yeah, except the problem, yeah, exactly. They think of it as that, which it is. This is the thing. These are all double-edged swords, right? There is a silver lining to all of this, right? The promise of AI and advanced robotics is it's a better world. It's a much better world. It's a world where you have a million geniuses in a data center all working on a problem until they solve it, right? So you can just point an AI at, you know, um, a gene therapy problem or some kind of weird illness that can't be diagnosed, and then you can finally figure out how to find the people who have it and solve it, or personal drug cocktails that are designed and manufactured for the individual, that are tailored to your own unique biology, your own unique genetics. Those things are all real. Those are real tangible goods that we'll be able to get out of this automation. Extremely advanced humanoid robotics. I'm going to show you a video of one in a second here that will blow your mind. It is the most human looking robot I've seen ever. And it's almost on the other side of the uncanny valley. But those things are going to be tremendous. But once, like, for example, the cost of manufacturing things is going to go down tremendously. The cost of services is going to go down tremendously. But there's got to be an answer for providing people with some kind of agency and autonomy in there. If it's just 4 or 5 companies that own all of the software, all of the hardware, all of the capital, all of the everything to manufacture everything and keep the economy moving, for one, I don't see how the economy continues to function once the bottom is pulled out from underneath it and people don't have any income to spend. I don't see how that cycle continues to renew itself. But if we steer it right, you could steer the outcome of this singularity moment that humanity is experiencing towards a world where we have advanced artificial intelligence helping us solve climate change, advanced robotics and automation helping us build the machinery to pull carbon out of the atmosphere, to rebalance the the gases on the planet and figure out how to decarbonize our economy, and like all of these things. But it's got to be inclusive. And there's a guy who, Yanis Varoufakis, is a Greek economist, and someone is a futurist also that I like, and he has this really great idea of what he calls a universal basic dividend. Not a universal basic income, but a universal basic dividend. And the dividend would work more or less like this. You start a global trust, a public trust, and you put a portion of, as companies automate, you put a portion of the company into the trust every year until a period of, say, 25 or 50 years has gone by. And then at the end of that, all of the AI companies are 100% owned by this trust. And the trust is equally owned by all people on Earth. So you have, he calls it, he says it's the way you get to Star Trek without communism in between. Like, you just eventually, slowly allocate everything into one global mega structure, and then you make sure everybody is a shareholder in that, and then everybody gets a dividend. You get a percentage of the value being generated by this giant trust filled with all of these productive companies that are all thriving in an automated environment. Beth Noyes, happy tax day to all my American friends. We're funding this. Yeah, we are. All right. I want to show you this. Check this out. This is the robot that has the super creepy face. Take a look. This is, find my screen. Wait a second. We just had it. Hold on a second. There it is. Okay. So this is from Futurism.com. Alarming new video shows robot making incredibly realistic facial expressions. Check this out. This is a video of this demo. Can I do this? Look at this face. This is a robotic. Hangzhou based Ahi from is not just building emotional humanoid robots, but replicas of future humans. They collaborate with artists to craft beautiful appearances powered by Character Mind, a system that gives, what does it say here? This is the actual tweet here. A system that gives robots emotions. Character Mind. It understands tone, expressions, and gestures, then responds with voice, facial expressions, eye contact, and body language, making interactions feel like talking to a real person. Yeah, this is really weird. So, on the bright side, assume these things are not just inherently evil and out to get you. And if you are a person in a hospital and there can be a robot that takes over a task that a human is doing right now, but they can do it 24 hours a day and they can be much more efficient and they can be much more effective. And you can extend the footprint of every human employee because now you have these humanoid robots that are able to take over some of those other menial jobs. I could see that being a boon to healthcare. That's something that, imagine being able to copy and paste a medical assistant or somebody who is like maybe an EMT. If you don't have if you don't have someone that has that skill set, if you could activate a droid that had that and have it nearby, I could see that being really useful. A lot of different possibilities. Or if you're just in assisted care and you need just contact with someone who can be there to make sure you're okay and check in from time to time, and the more that interaction can feel realistic and human, I could see a tremendous value there. I'm more in the mindset of like droids this is going to sound so old fashioned in 20 years. Droids should be droids. I think droids should look like droids. Droids should walk and talk like droids. It should be a little bit more like Star Wars. We should know that's a droid. They have their own thing going on. We're not anti-droid around here. We're just, there's humans and then there's the droids. I don't know. I'm team human first, but to the extent that this technology helps humans become more engaged with real life, that's a good thing. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. Missing time. These aren't the droids you're looking for. I know. This is not the cyberpunk future we were promised. Obi-Wan Shinobi. Great point. Welcome to Blade Runner 2026. Clankers, Mr. Justin. Clankers. You know what's funny is that this is now a generational thing. I grew up in the era where the robot dance was like, look like a robot, like C-3PO. But now robots are better dancers than people. So the robot isn't even a real thing anymore, I guess. Maybe that's just, I don't know what you would call it. There's no, it's almost like that dance is now obsolete. Very weird. Okay. Quick sidebar. Where are, bear with me, gang. I have to click some tabs here. Here we go. It's the thing with live streaming. It's clunky. Clint loves to act like he's so old. Who said that? Sea of Curls. I'm 46 this year. I mean, geez, how old do I have to be old? I don't know. You know what it is? I feel it more. I feel it now. You know, I just move a little bit slower. But when I'm having one of those days where I just don't feel like myself, which, let's face it, it's almost every other day, I reach. Here it comes. For Night Shift the coffee. This is Night Shift the coffee. The cup's so fresh. You won't fucking believe it. Why are we doing coffee? You're probably asking. What's the point? Why? I'll tell you. By the way, if you go to teamnightshift.com, you can pick up a bag of Night Shift the coffee. Freshness that defies physics. Here's the whole idea. I drink coffee on the show. I drink coffee all the time. I like it. I enjoy it. I love it. And I know a good cup when I taste it. So I decided that if Night Shift is going to make anything, we should be making coffee, and we should make our own, and it should be the best. So I set about the task of searching high and low around the world for the finest cup of coffee that can be made by human hands. And this is it. It is a blend of beans from Brazil and Mexico that are roasted to perfection. It's a medium dark roast. And here's the kicker. This is the thing. Why would you buy this coffee? What is the reason I would go and order this instead of going to the store and just buying Trader Joe's coffee? It's because Night Shift coffee, when you hit go, when you order this bag, within 48 hours of you placing the order, your bag is roasted for you and shipped to your door. So when you get your coffee, it is as fresh as it can possibly be. There is no fresher cup of coffee, unless you're roasting it yourself in your own kitchen right before you drink it. This is as fresh as it gets. That's why we say freshness that defies physics. Here's the problem. Let's face it, guys. You can go to Trader Joe's. You can go to Whole Foods. But the coffee's been sitting there for days, sometimes weeks. And before it was sitting there, it was sitting at a warehouse for another couple of weeks. And before it was sitting there, it was at some other facility. And then it was packaged. And then it was, by the time you get all the way back to the time the coffee was actually roasted, it's months have passed in some cases. And you can taste that. When you have freshly roasted coffee, you can taste the difference. So that's the whole pitch. That's the whole idea. Night Shift the coffee. You order this, and two things are happening. When you buy one, you get some coffee, and it's the best coffee you're ever going to have. And you get to support the show. You get to kick in something for Night Shift, and you get something in return. It's so much better. It's the best way to support the channel. We both win. And we get to share a cup of the good stuff together. Every time we sit down, we can talk about aliens and UFOs and stuff. So that's it. Night Shift the coffee. Go to teamnightshift.com, pick up a bag, and you can use the code NIGHTSHIFT10 for 10% off your first order. Juan says, 63, like me, Clint. That's how old you got to be to feel old. Okay, well, when I get to 63, I'll let you know. Uh, if you live, okay, so the coffee thing, a few people are mentioning this in the chat. We only ship to North America right now. We're not shipping to Europe. By the way, the expanded night shift universe, you guys are awesome. We just shipped our first t-shirt to Japan. Shout out to Japan, whoever that was. If you ordered, I just saw that order come through the other day. We've got people in South America, we've got people in Europe, we've got people all over the world, and it's just awesome. I see, when I see the orders come through, I'm just looking at where everybody's from, and we really are spread out everywhere. So, way to go, Team Night Shift. You guys are the best. And I also have to say that when we launched this coffee a couple weeks ago, it was so successful on the first day, we broke the website. The system that processes the orders literally shut down for 24 hours because I had to go in and reset it. It was just so many orders came pouring through. It has been tremendous. So thank you to everyone who jumped on the bandwagon and ordered a bag right away when you first heard about this. Sight unseen. You didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was this top secret project I was working on for a long time. And as soon as we mentioned it, everybody jumped on it once, and it was overwhelming. So when that happened, it was a huge sign to me that we were onto something. So because you've been asking, some people have asked, Night Shift, the decaf coffee is coming soon. We're working on it now, and that'll be coming. It's just as soon as it's ready. So Night Shift, the coffee, and Night Shift, the decaf coffee. The reason we can't ship to outside of the United States right now is because it would, one, be prohibitively expensive. Excuse me, prohibitively expensive. But even if you did want to, really be awesome and pay the extra shipping to ship it outside of the United States, it wouldn't be as fresh because the whole point is that it gets to you really fast. So we're working on that. We may have a solution, but it's something that I've got to look into a little more. All right. I want to share one more thing with you guys before we wrap up for today. This is just some stuff that I've been looking at online, some stories that I'm studying right now. One is this really awesome interview with Bill Uhouse. Now, you may remember Xander did an episode of Dreamland Motel on Bill just a couple weeks ago. And I think it's, I just checked on it. It was like up to like 20K views. It's a great episode. You should go watch it. Bill Uhouse is an engineer, a former United States Marine Corps helicopter pilot and engineer who, according to his story and testimony, he worked on a program to develop a simulator, a flight simulator that pilots could use to learn how to pilot a particular type of UFO craft, but not just any craft. The craft that they worked on had to do with the being known as J-Rod. And if you don't know who J-Rod is, J-Rod ties back to another one of my favorite UFO cases, the Dan Burrish saga, something that I've been working on for some time. So I want to show you a few minutes of Bill Uhouse's interview, because I went back, and as I'm working on this Dan Burrish project, one of the things I'm doing is looking at other instances where people talk about J-Rod. And this is really good. I'm going to show this to you. This is from a channel called, let's see, Realm of Secrets is the channel that posted it, but you can also find it on Eyes on Cinema. That's another one that's great. If you go there, they have a huge library of interviews. But this one is Bill Uhouse, the engineer who worked on the alien simulator. Take a look. I'm just going to show you a few minutes of this, and then we'll talk about it.
No upside down, like in a regular aircraft. You have your own gravitational field right inside. So if you're flying upside down, to you, you're right side up.
Realm of Secrets.
Have you ever wondered how UFOs work? How engineers and scientists manage to reverse engineer them, build functional machines, and even learn to fly them? The answers come from Bill Uhouse, an American war pilot, World War II veteran and engineer who worked on top-secret projects at Base 51. His confession is very interesting because it lines up with what warriors, to building an alien flying object. A lot of information.
About,
Here we go.
well, the year was 1954 in September. And, well, a little later than that, let me go back a little bit. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I took a job with the Air Force at Wright-Patterson, doing experimental flight testing on various different modifications and tech orders that they had incorporated into aircraft, various different aircraft, F-89, back then the B-47, F-102, and those aircraft. While I was at Wright-Patterson, of course, I was approached by an individual that, and I'm not going to mention his name, to determine if I wanted to work in an area on just new creative things, okay? And apparently that was the flying disc simulator. What they had done, they had selected several of us, and they reassigned me to Link Aviation, which was a simulator manufacturer. At that time, they were building what they call the C-11B and F-102 simulator, B-47 simulator, and so forth. And they wanted us to get the experience before we actually started work on the flying disc simulator, which I spent 30-some years working on.
So they had flying disc simulators. To your knowledge, when was the earliest they had them in operation?
I don't think any went in operation until the late or early 60s, around 62 or 63. As I watched, the reason why I'm saying this is because the simulator wasn't actually functional until around 1958, where the simulator was actually operable. The simulator that they used, or the craft that they used to build, which is a 30-meter one, was the one that crashed in Arizona, Kingman, Arizona, back in 53 or 52. I think it was 53. That's the one they used. That's the first one that they took out to the test site. It was a controlled craft, you know, that the aliens wanted to present to our government, or the USA. It landed about 15 miles from, which used to be an Army air base, which is now a defunct Army base. I forget, I can't recall the name of it. But that particular craft, there were some problems with, number one, getting it on the flatbed to take it up to Area 51. They couldn't get it across the dam because of the road. It had to be barged across the, the Colorado River at the time, and then taken up to where people go now, up 93, out to Area 51, which was just being really constructed at the time, and taken down those dirt roads and out to that particular area of the test site. There were 4 aliens aboard that thing, and those aliens went to Los Alamos for basically, it was a sort of a test thing. They set up the Los Alamos with a particular area for those guys, and they put certain people in there with them, people that were astrophysicists, just general scientists, to ask them questions. The way the story was told to me was there was only one of them that would talk to any of these scientists that they put in the lab with them. Only one of the aliens. The rest wouldn't talk to anybody, or even have a conversation with them. First they thought, it was all, ESP, or, what do I want to say?
Telepathy?
Yeah, mental telepathy. But most of that is kind of a joke to me, because they actually speak, maybe not like we do, but they actually speak and can converse. but there was only one. The difference between this aircraft or this disc and other discs that they had looked at was that it was much simpler design.
I don't know why they're showing that, because what this is not the Bill Uhouse thing. This is a rendering of a craft that was drawn by Mark McCandlish, the aerospace illustrator who drew this based on a description that he was given from someone else who had supposedly seen this in a hangar, and that this is an ARV that had been built with off-the-shelf human, made aerospace components, like, the seats are regular standard seats, the tanks underneath, there's oxygen tanks in here. The central column is some kind of like ejection system that can blast the pilot and the other crew members out of the top. These little, spherical lens things are basically a 360-degree camera system around the craft. Now, this craft was supposedly, by the time it was described to Mark McCandlish in the mid-1980s, it was already, when it had been seen, it was already old. It was described as being old and like banged up like an old car. Like they had used the shit out of this thing, and it had just been kind of dinged up. And supposedly this is a little grappler arm that can be extended out from inside the craft to do things. So I don't know why this channel has put this image in here, but this is a different thing than what he's talking about. But what I want you to pay attention to with Bill Uhouse is what he's saying about the alien, and listen to how he describes it.
Disc and other discs that they had looked at was that it was much simpler design. In the simulator, it was one big thing different. The thing that, like Lazar calls the reactor, okay, we didn't have a reactor. We had a space in a thing that looked like the reactor, but that wasn't the thing we operated the simulator with. We operated with 6 large capacitors that were charged with 1 million volts each. Say there were 6 million volts in those capacitors. They're largest capacitors ever built. These particular capacitors, they last for 30 minutes, so you could get in there and actually work the controls and do what you had to get the aircraft or get the simulator, the disc to operate. Okay, so it wasn't that simple because we only had 30 minutes. Okay, and the reason why it was designed like that photo I showed you was actually when it was operable, it would lift off the ball about a certain amount of there was a dimension there that we had that it actually lifted up, and it could actually turn, a certain amount of degrees left to right or whatever. But in a simulator now, you'll notice that there are no seat belts, right? And the same thing with the actual craft, no seat belts. You don't need seat belts, because when you fly one of these things upside down, there's no upside down like in a regular aircraft. You have your own gravitational field right inside. So if you're flying upside down, to you, you're right side up.
Did you ever get inside the actual craft?
I was in there for startup, sure.
How do they image? How do you look out the windows from one of these things with a control?
Actually, we didn't look out any windows. There weren't any windows. The only place we had any visibility at all, and it was done with cameras or video type things at that time, was in the turret section. My thing was the flight deck, and the instruments on the flight deck. I knew about the gravitational field and what it took to get people to, train them to be able to come in that thing, and operate. You would be sick or disoriented in about 2 minutes after getting in, after it was cranked up. It takes a lot of time because of the area and the smallness of it. Just to raise your hand, it becomes complicated. You have to be trained with your mind, to accept what you're going to actually feel and
so there's some
experience.
perceptual distortion.
There's a lot of distortion, yeah. seeing, just moving about. It's a after a while, after you get used to it and all, and you do it, it's simple. You got to know where everything is, you know, and you got to understand what's going to happen to your body. It's no different than, you know, accepting the G-forces, you know, when you're flying a aircraft or coming out of a dive, you know, and that kind of thing. It's say with it can't be used as a like we use aircraft today with dropping bombs and you know, having machine guns, you know, in the wings and that kind of stuff. The design is so exacting that you can't add anything. You can't. It's got to be just right. There's a big problem in the design of where things are put. Say, you know, where the center of the aircraft is and that type of thing. Even the fact that we raised it 3 feet so the taller guys could get in and stuff. The actual ship was extended back to its original configuration, but actually raised. We had, you know, when they gave you the psychological question, you know, I just answered them the way I felt, and I had no problem, you know.
Welcome back. I've left a link in the description so you can better understand the back you prefer when I add my own thoughts, rather than leaving you only with the translated interview. The reason I sometimes make videos this way
is this AI.
From these small details, you can often, because all this man has, do you have any
oh my God.
Introduction into meeting, you know, say an EVE, an alien. And I called him J-Rod, of course that's what they called him, but that wasn't his, you know, I don't know if that was his real name or not, but that's the name that the linguist gave him, you know, so he knew J-Rod, you know. And I did draw a sketch of him when he was, before I left him in a meeting, but, and I provided it to some people, but.
So he says that J-Rod was the name given to him, to the EBE, the extraterrestrial biological entity known as J-Rod, was given that name by the linguist, the linguistics team. So now here is a shot. This is a clip of Dan Burish talking about J-Rod. Listen to what he says.
To interactions with the J-Rod. And again, they have personal names. The term J-Rod simply means 15, which was a basing name for where they're located, the number of light years from our location. So they took those names. And they identified through the Sigma protocols, the linguistic protocols, with a rod symbol, which was an inertia symbol, and the letter J. And in fact, that was a combination of Mayan and Egyptian numerology having to do with a rod and a J, meaning 10 and 5 for 15.
Okay.
That is a pretty specific explanation of how they arrived at J-Rod's name. I don't know how you would make that up on the fly.
Now, 15 light years away, is that the police 876?
876 Charlie, from what I've been told. Now, he did not specifically tell me that was the location, but the number 15 was mentioned.
Well,
They don't call it, apparently, Police 876, whatever,
how
Charlie.
did J-Rod get here? I mean, how did he, 15 light years away?
He crashed in 63, from what I understand,
Oh, is that right?
outside of Kingman,
Okay,
Arizona.
right.
There was a problem involving his physiology and his biophysiological communication with the craft went wrong. And of course, he's ill, as we know, with the MGUS and the paraprotein associated problems. And he crashed.
So what he's describing here is the J-Rod has a way of plugging into the craft through, there is some kind of like nerve sheath that retracts on the J-Rod's hands, and it can reach out and touch the control surfaces and then directly link to the craft. and then I would assume become one with this machine and fly it in a much more precise way, which seems to be similar to what the way that Bill Uhouse described it. He said that it was the simulator was based on the Kingman crash. He said he dealt with J-Rod, that J-Rod got his name from the linguistics people. And here you have Dan Burrish saying Kingman crash, J-Rod arrived with that crash, and there were he says later in this interview, there were other beings there, but he only interacted with J-Rod. And Bill Uhouse says that the J-Rod would only one of them would speak to anyone. And Dan Burrish's whole story revolves around the fact that he was the only person that the J-Rod would communicate with. And all of the MJ-12 people that were overseeing Dan Burrish's project that he was working on, Project Aquarius, all of those people were kind of dumbfounded and upset, pissed off that the J-Rod refused to respond to them. And they had this whole linguistics team and this whole protocol set up for how Dan Burrish would enter into this space called the clean sphere and communicate with this being. And it all involved hand signals and that kind of thing. But what Dan Burrish discovers very quickly once he meets the J-Rod is that he establishes a telepathic link between the two of them, and they can communicate silently. So as Dan Burrish is working on the team of biologists that are analyzing samples from the J-Rod, he is in direct contact with this being, exchanging information silently. And the other people on the team know this. They suspect it. And they understand there's some kind of communication going on, but they can't quite prove it, and they can't get the J-Rod to communicate with any of them. So they're sort of in this weird position where Dan Burrish has to continue working on this project, but he's the only one. I just knocked over something. But he's the only one who can communicate with the being. So it's a really bizarre story. It's one of my favorites. It's something I talk about a lot, and I've been working on this project for some time, which I hope to share with you guys soon as it's ready. But that little Bill Uhouse clip was one of the ones that really caught my attention. Xander had mentioned it to me, and I went back and finally watched it again, and I was like, you know what? You're right. It is really weird. So I'm curious, what do you guys think of the J-Rod story? Anybody here buy the J-Rod story? Am I the only one? Hey, Scapular Boar, thanks for becoming a member. You're awesome. Thank you. Big Dog 5758 says, I was watching on my roommate's TV and seen a fellow big dog. That's rare. Love the coffee, Clint. Hey, man, glad you love the coffee. That's awesome. Thanks for the great comment, and thanks for trying it out. Paris Diamond says, what about those USOs? Underwater USOs are supposed to be a threat, but been active since the 1980s. The USO thing is really interesting. Richard Dolan has written a book on this, which I just had on my desk a minute ago, and I think I put it back on my shelf. USOs Volume 1, and he's got USOs Volume 2 already wrapped. He assures me that will be out soon. He's publishing that through his own publishing company, and he says all of the writing is done. It just has to be, formatted and put out. So I'm expecting that to be soon. He says as soon as it comes out, we'll know. But the USO question is really interesting. I guess I didn't really appreciate just how many underwater cases there are and how frequent this is until very recently. Tim Gallaudet, Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, really expanded my thinking on this when he explained some of the things that the Navy has seen and some of the various leaks that have happened. George Knapp got a great batch of intelligence out of the Soviet Union right when the collapse happened. He was able to smuggle out some really interesting documents, and one of the things that he got out of there was about this Russian sighting that had taken place somewhere out on Ototsk or Okost, or I forget what the name of the place was, but this really remote naval encounter where they saw this gigantic craft hovering above their ship, and it was just this big giant thing. And that stuff happens a lot. I was in Peru last year in Lima. There's a cool little neighborhood by the coast called Barranco, and a lot of the people there, you live on this sort of rocky coastline looking out over the ocean, and they see strange lights coming up out of the water all the time. In fact, if you look up Lima, Peru, UAP, UFO sightings, you'll see there are groups of people that go out and watch them. There's like, people are into it, and because it's so common. I didn't see anything when I was there, but I was only in Lima for a couple of days, and not enough nights to really get out there and skywatch. It seems reasonable to me that they would operate from bases under the ocean. It's where we can't get to them. They can get to us. We can't get to them. They have transmedium capability. Their craft are somehow able to withstand the enormous pressures at those crazy depths. And I suspect it's a lot like the movie The Abyss. There's probably a lot of advanced technology just down at the bottom of the ocean. And who knows what it's up to. Whether it's a threat or not, I guess, remains to be seen. We don't know what we don't know. And we don't know if, for one, we don't know who we're dealing with. We don't know how many specific different types of NHI we're dealing with, but we know that it's not just one. We know it's multiple different kinds. And we also know that the ships that are sighted and the craft that are seen vary dramatically from one to the next. There are some categories that are very consistent: spheres, orbs, discs, triangles, cubes, occasionally giant squares, these interesting geometric shapes that are sort of like what we saw today. This is kind of a new thing, this sort of starburst looking thing. I don't know if that's real or if that's an AI generated thing. The trouble is that we're in a position now where AI has made it impossible for us to trust any visual evidence that we see. So when we look at data, there's kind of a cutoff. Everything up until about maybe 2-3 years ago, I think, is probably fair game. But after about 2023, 2024, we get into this period where the AI tools are just so good, it's hard to know what we're looking at. But what's interesting about these USO cases, particularly the stuff that was observed by the Soviets, is that they were seen visually and then corroborated with multiple different sensor readings. So that's why these military sightings are so valuable. We know, we not only can see the thing, but we know, is it hot? Is it cold? How hot is it? How far away is it? How fast is it moving? You have some data to work with. So the USO thing is very interesting. The most terrifying possible thing I can imagine would be being in a submarine at depth and then having a USO shut down all the power on your nuclear submarine. And then you're just sitting there in the dark at the bottom of the ocean in a tube with a few 100 or 1,000 other people, however many, are on board one of those giant nuclear subs, and you're just in the dark. I would lose my fucking mind. I don't know. Are they a threat? If they are, they're not as much of an immediate threat as we are to ourselves. I think that we have to put out the fire in our own house before we worry too much about what they're up to. I'm not on board with the Love and Light Brigade completely. I don't think that I don't think we're out of the woods with regard to the risk factor of NHI, because we don't know what we're dealing with, and we don't know what we don't know. So I'm not comfortable saying that they're all peaceful and they're all safe and everything's going to be fine. I just think we're still in a very murky gray area with regard to information that we can act on. Yes, we know that they're There are various types of NHI. We know that they operate different types of craft. They appear to be doing different things. They're not all on the same page. They're not all necessarily working together. Some of them are really bizarro one-off sightings, like the Pascagoula case is a great example of that. These beings that were seen, this weird, sort of bizarre being and a mechanical sort of robotic thing that was seen by Charlie Parker and what's the other guy's name? That's one of those weird outlier cases. The Greys, the Nordics, the Reptilians. If I hadn't heard about all of this stuff in a congressional setting, I wouldn't know what to think about it. I mean, I get up until a few years ago, I approached the subject of UFOs as a fascinating piece of like science fiction that was probably a little bit real. It's kind of how I looked at it, right? It's like there's probably a little bit real here, right? Like aliens are real and the UFOs are real, but my understanding of it was all very, very limited. And it was mostly like they come in a flying saucer, they come here from another planet, and it's a very like simple system that we're looking at, more or less. Their technology is super advanced, but what they're doing is very basic. They're coming here, they're taking people, they're doing things, they're experimenting, they're testing things, they're observing, they're monitoring. But in the last few years, that understanding has become vastly more complicated because we have more seemingly accurate information from sources that we more or less trust. I think most people, like Matthew Brown. I've met Matthew. I've talked to Matthew. I trust Matthew. I think he is one of the good guys. David Grush, same thing, one of the good guys. UAP Gerb, one of the best researchers out there, doing some of the best work out there. Like UAP Gerb, shout out to Gerb for being unbelievable at his job. But the amount of information that we have now that comes from reliable sources is pretty amazing. And it stands as a testament to how far we have actually come since 2017. In the decade since then, the amount of progress that has been made. I mean, you have congressional legislation that's talking about non-human intelligence, bipartisan. You have a former president, a former presidential candidate, senator, and the sitting current president, all within a week of each other, talking about UFOs and UAPs, saying it's real. So all of this stuff, Eric Davis in a congressional hearing, sitting down after the hearing, talking to Eric Burleson, Tim Gallaudet is sitting there, Avi Loeb from Harvard is sitting there, like all at the same table. James Fox is right there in the room, and Eric Davis is saying, yeah, we know of at least grays, short grays, tall grays, Nordics, and reptilians. And the craziest part about watching that, and you can find this, it's on YouTube, you can find this clip, is that when he says it, they just keep talking. They just keep going. Like there's no, whoa, hold up, stop. Can you walk back and let's go back through that one more time. Explain this again. It's like a matter of course, and they just carry on. Prior to hearing Eric Davis say it and, other people that I trust, I thought maybe it seemed a little too on the nose for me that Nordics would look like sexy yoga instructors, like they're all from Planet Fabio. They show up, they're all 6.5 feet tall. They all look like they do CrossFit all day. And, they wear velour jumpsuit. It just seemed like, I don't know. I had a hard time. It's why I have this whole thing with Nords in my head canon. Nords are super annoying. You think they're so awesome. You see them and they're like the jocks. They're just brilliant. They all have like 9 PhDs. They're just geniuses. And they're all like perfect athletes. They live to be 1,000 years old. But they're probably like really annoying to hang around. And like after a day or two of working with one, you're like, I don't know if I want to, maybe got to do something else today. I don't know. The Nord thing, it just felt like too Hollywood. But apparently It's not. That's the weird thing. Like, there is a group that looks like us, but not just us, but like super annoying versions of us. Can you imagine hanging out with these fucking people? They're just constantly flying around in their velour jumpsuits. The inside of the ship looks like the ladies' man bit from SNL. It's all like couches and thick shag carpet. They listen to Ace of Base all the time. Probably horrible taste in music. I don't know. Nords. What do you think the Nords are like? Let me know in the comments. Okay, guys. I've got to wrap it up. Linda Moulton. Wow. Who said that? Linda. That's great. There are beings more, Grelch, there are beings more annoying than us. AJ Crowley, sounds like an early 80s, 90s sitcom. That would be hilarious. I want to see a sitcom about a hybrid who's got to come to Earth and like integrate into our culture. Well, I guess they already did that. That was Third Rock from the Sun, wasn't it? More or less. Third Rock. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. John Lithgow. Anybody else watch it? Nord lead is a great what? Oh, these comments are flying by fast and furious, guys. All Nordics wearing fishbowl helmets. That's not Nordics love that CRISPR. Nazi time travelers. So smug. Yeah, they just seem like they're smug. Like smug Nords. You know, they're always they're just like, humans are so dumb. They think we smell. They're just like, they look down on us, I think. This is just, I'm making all this up. I don't know. I don't know if this is real. But they're just like made like weird. All their music is really weirdly Euro. Help me build it out. Let's build out the mythology around the Nords, guys. Like, let's brainstorm. It can't just be me here. There are no bad ideas in brainstorming. Two Wolf says, understanding nature is understanding the phenomenon. Nature can be dangerous if you don't respect it. Indeed. Great point. Planet Gerbio Lanzoni. So Gerbio, Planet Gerbio, Mr. Justin, who's the president of the I guess, official Night Shift Doomer Friday fan club, invented Gerbio. We kind of invented Gerbio. It's like Fabio, but it's UAP Gerb. He plays the saxophone. He's got long flowing mane of blonde hair. That's another thing. They all have like perfect blonde, like long flowing locks of hair. Like, think how annoying that would be after a while. If imagine being around like 10 of these guys. You're just like, you're on the ship and they're all like 10s. You just, after a while, you're like, can you guys just be regular people for a minute? They don't hang out. You know, you can't just like have a beer. They're all watching their carbs all the time. Dan Burrish documentary soon out at Nikon Film Fest. Ooh, Robert Villegas, 385. Cool. I'm interested. Jessica, when Nordics fart, it smells like roses. Maybe not roses. Maybe something that's also good, but also kind of like weird. It smells like Play-Doh. Maybe it smells like Play-Doh. I'm like, why does it always smell like Play-Doh around here? Like, I love this Play-Doh, but something they eat. Street Crew. Mr. Justin's the Doomer Friday Street Crew. Doesn't matter. Resolute Decide says, doesn't matter if you respect it, if you believe any abduction account out there, the phenomenon couldn't give less of a fuck about our interest. Hey, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take 10 more minutes and then I'm going to wrap it up. But in the last 10 minutes, let's talk about something fun. Not fun, but one of my favorite. What happened to my voice? Oh my God, this is great. One of my favorite aspects of the phenomenon. Also the creepiest. Alien abductions. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This is a supercut of alien abduction clips from various TV shows, and you can find it on Eyes on Cinema. The Eyes on Cinema YouTube channel is a treasure trove of awesome awesome UFO related videos. It is awesome. If you're in the know, you know about Eyes on Cinema. If you're not in the know, well, now you are. Tell your friends. Eyes on Cinema. Let's check this out. This is a clip from a show called Sightings, which I used to watch like it was the news. Tim White. I'm Tim White.
The entity I remember,
the host of
is
Sightings,
very, very tall. The face was exactly like a praying mantis, and it moved its head in very jerky-like manner. And I'm pretty sure, just in my own heart, that that's not the first time in 1965.
There's one being in particular that I always recognize, and he's not a gray. He's taller, he's thinner, he's got a bigger head, he's got bigger eyes. His limbs are very praying mantis-like. I remember being on the table with my head turned away, not wanting to look at this creature. And then when I looked at him, I just recognized him as the one that I hated. You find yourself on a table and these creatures around you with instruments, and you have no idea what they're doing, and they don't tell you.
My skin was sliced like with a surgical instrument.
When a person is abducted, it's a physical examination. The focus of the entire enterprise seems to me to be unmistakably on reproductive issues.
And I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I found myself in a room, and I was laying on a table, and I had 6 beings, and I couldn't tell you what they were doing because I really don't know. But I remember the one that was on the left of my head took something from my head.
The person will describe being on a table, which is generally metallic. They are unable to move.
And the beings were standing around me,
Looking at me.
examining my body.
Now, when they're on the table, they describe operations which take place.
The next thing I remember, they have this thing in front of my eye, like a metal instrument that was kind of like shaped like an L, and stuck it. It went all the way back down to here, though, in my throat.
As proof the operations have taken place, those who believe they were abducted often point to unexplainable scars, even implants.
My mother remembers me pointing out that I had a scar on my leg. She said it never bled.
The scar appeared simultaneously with Jesse's abduction experience at age 4 in 1956. Beneath the scar, Jesse could always feel a small object.
I remembered being taken into the craft, taken into one room. I was placed on a very cold, flat table. My brother was separated and he was taken into another room. They were doing something down to my legs. I could feel them poking and prodding around my legs.
I ran down the hill. The 3 of us ran down the hill. We thought we were running home. We went into this man in dark clothing, tall, dark eyes. Then there was a sensation of floating and then being on a table and having feelings of ice put on our legs and lights shining in our eyes, and that's all I remember. And there were 6 of them, and they all looked the same. Now, I just can't accept this.
Like a cliched saucer, circular and very large and low.
Do you remember being in it as well, Wendy?
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And just lying on a table with faces looking over me, and Scott saw the same figures, like hockey mask figures, if you can imagine a hockey mask, and nasty looking equipment.
He had a couple of tables in it. It was like one table laying down, a long, narrow one, and one up in the air, only on a hinge. I think I was laying on one. It was like they had Terry standing up against the other one. It was like he was tied there. He couldn't move or clamped in.
Did they at any time say anything to you?
It was like there was communication.
How does the communication take place?
Like a thought.
Did they tell you or communicate with you that you would not remember this, that it was secret?
Not then.
They did later?
Yeah.
Did you ever see at all what they looked like?
They were big. He was standing quite a ways above, arm's length maybe.
What sort of suits or things were they wearing?
Maybe a rubber-like.
Could you see their eyes?
Yeah. They were like holes, deep holes. The glaring of the eyes. It seemed like their eyes controlled our brain.
Okay, describe what happened during the examination.
I got very cold. Don't have much feeling left. It was like they put something numb on me.
How many kinds of tests or how many kinds of examinations took place?
They checked everything on my body.
Did you feel somebody was touching you?
Well,
with instruments or with hands?
With instruments.
Uh-huh.
Maybe like a little knife, a small one. When they put it in my nose, it felt like it was scraping it. I think they opened my head and examined my brain. I don't know, it's like they dissect like we dissect a frog.
They had large heads and big black eyes, and it was very fuzzy. I was almost passed out at that time.
And they floated you up onto the spacecraft, and then what happened?
They put me onto a table, and they showed me a long needle, and they put the edge of the needle into my navel.
I'm finding in my cases many chilling similarities. The person is taken against their will, taken into a craft of some kind, put on a table. The women begin to experience the gynecological examinations done by the aliens on them. They feel very violated. With the men, anal probes are inserted and sperm is taken. It's all done against their will, and they're really helpless to do anything about it.
The next thing I remember after the going up was being on a table. And that's the first time they did what, like a gynecological exam on me.
For a 12-year-old kid?
Mm-hmm. And
no wonder you were scared.
Yeah, it was a shock because I was pretty naive. I didn't really have any clue of how my body worked anyway, and then to have these things around me and they checked me out and they put something in me, and it was really traumatic at the time. I feel like it sort of took some of my innocence away at the time, and it bothered me.
They took me into a room. I was told to disrobe, and I was embarrassed. I didn't want to undress, and yet I couldn't stop. They told me to take my wedding rings off, which I did. And then they led me to a table and laid me down. I remember them telling me that I was either going to have a baby or that I was pregnant. I wasn't quite sure. But what they had done was remove a fetus from me and implanted another, which was really emotionally hard for me. They've gone in with needles through my abdomen. They have gone in through the vagina and taken out small, what look like fetuses that couldn't possibly survive.
Women say routinely that eggs are extracted from them, that this is something that is common. It's common for every woman who has ovaries intact. We don't really see a whole lot of exceptions to that. I'm sure there are exceptions to it, but it's extremely common. And harvesting eggs. All of these are drawings by abductees.
It's white. It's so white. It's like it's round. I can see Helen. She's on a board. It's shaped like a table, like a school table. There's something on the ceiling. It looks like operating something which will come down. My eyes, they're looking into my eyes. It feels like a burning sensation in my eye. They look like
a non-curved room and a round.
Over this until and it's totally changed our lives.
Here is a sperm collection procedure. Here's a guy who's laying on one of these tables. You notice the curved room and a round. This is a situation where sperm is being taken and he is comforted by an abductee, a non-alien, an abductee, which I found of no concern whatsoever when I saw this and when he told me about it. Later, I became interested in this. So it takes sperm, we know that, all the time. In fact, Barney Hill in 1961 said that they had taken a sperm sample, but when a book was written about them in 1966, to our amazing luck, he refused to have that put in because it was so embarrassing. He didn't want people to know. And that was hugely important to us because nobody knew that this had happened to Barney, and people started describing it all the time, then nobody could be accused of picking it up from the Barney and Betty Hill story early on. See what I mean? It wasn't mentioned, but it's in the testimony.
It seemed as if I was carried up the ramp. My feet were banging against the ground as these small men I described came up to me and carried me from the car and through the woods and up this ramp and into this room where I opened my eyes. I saw a table. Betty described the table as being adequate for her to lie on, the room where she was in. And at this time, I do not know where Betty is. And apparently, I am more concerned of my own welfare to be concerned about Betty. But the table that I described was small. And obviously, the difference in our heights could be the answer.
Well, how tall were these men?
I estimate, I said they were about as tall as Betty, but this would mean that they were
5'1"?
About 4.5 to 5 feet.
I'm 5 feet. 5 feet.
Yes, and I'm 5 feet 8, so that the 3 inches difference was quite a difference. And I said that the table was too small. Where I too was given an examination, I'm very conscious about my teeth. I was very upset about. I only got as far as saying something went into my mouth, and I did not bother to tell the doctor, and he did not press this as to what was happening, but I can only think now that this would have been when my teeth would have been extracted. And
pulled out.
Pulled out. Yeah, I should have said pulled out because they're dentures. Yes, and so they weren't extracted, they had been. But I go on to explain that the kind of examination that I had been given is a scraping of the skin, and I had been turned over. They were interested in body openings, and a cup-like object was placed against my genitals. And I was reluctant to talk about that until Mr. Fuller was able to word it for me by saying lower abdomen. And this would have been the extent of the examination.
And then there's, sort of in the middle of the room is a table. Some kind of a table. It's not up very high, about the same height as the desk. So I lie down on the table, on my back, and he brings over this how can I describe it? They're like needles. There's a whole cluster of needles, and each needle has a wire running from it. So then they roll me over on my back. And the examiner has a long needle in his hand. And I see the needle. And it's bigger than any needle I've ever seen. And I asked him what he's going to do with it. And he said, just a simple test of hurt me. And I asked him what. And he said he just wants to put it in my navel. It's just a simple test. And I told him, no, it will hurt. Don't do it. Don't do it. And even though it won't hurt. And he sticks a needle into my navel. And I'm crying and I tell him it's hurting, it's hurting, it's hurting, take it out. And then the leader, he goes over and he puts his hand, runs his hand in front of my eyes. And he says, I'll be all right. I won't feel it. And all the pain goes away.
Louise. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. The Betty and Barney Hill regressions are hard. They are tough to listen to. They are intense. Any hypnotic regression of an abductee or contactee, but abductees in particular, are hard to listen to, because you hear the person reliving this moment and they're just paralyzed with fear. And you can imagine, imagine waking up. I mean, God, even if it wasn't, forget aliens. Imagine you're just a person and you're just going about your day, and then you black out and you wake up and you're in some room and it's just a bunch of human doctors doing stuff. Imagine how terrifying that would be. And you wake up and you're under anesthesia and you're sort of drifting in and out, and you can kind of see things, but you can't quite tell what's going on. And I mean, good Lord. And then to imagine the terror of being on board a craft, of, not knowing how much time has passed, where you are, where you were, where you're going, what's happening, all of these things must be flashing through your mind. To say nothing about anyone that you were with. I mean, how panicked they might be. And David Jacobs is one of my favorite researchers on this topic. He talks about abductees being missing from their home, and their friends and family are, they're missing. They're gone. They're not like they thought they were gone and then they turned out to be right where everybody thought they were. It's they're physically missing from their environment for a period of time, hours. And in other cases, as you heard Jacobs earlier, he's the guy with the curly white hair, the mustache. You heard him mention a little earlier. He said that in many cases, abductees see other abductees on board craft, and more than once, and they actually remember each other, even if they have no relationship in regular day-to-day life. These are people who will meet each other at some point and recognize each other from a previous mass abduction event. And that is jarring. It's a real thing. It happens to people. What's terrifying is that we don't know more about it, and we know that it was happening a lot for a period of time. And I don't know of anybody who's researching abductions now in a serious, focused way. But I don't even know if that's possible anymore. With the way we share information now, it would be very difficult, I would imagine, to find people who haven't been exposed to, some of this material, and already, just through mass media and culture. So how do you know what's being, truthfully recalled under hypnotic regression, and how much of it is confabulation? It would be very difficult to know. But I do wonder, is anyone actually looking into this? This is where the conversation goes next, right? Like, it's going to be, the reason they're so focused on nuts and bolts makes sense, right? The disclosure conversation has been very centered on the hardware, because there's a paper trail. Hardware requires receipts and accountants and serial numbers and chain of ownership. And, it's got to be transported from place to place by very special people who are trained to handle this material. And like, there is a large logistical footprint that surrounds the hardware side of this conversation. So there is something to bite into. There are records to go after. You can audit these programs. You could, bring in the head of the Air Force and put them under oath, and then you could ask questions about these programs that would, put them in a position where they'd be forced to lie about something that you pretty much can be positive they know. That's what Chris Mellon says. Get these guys in there, put them under oath, and then start asking questions, hard questions. But abductions, no one I know is really looking at it. Bud Hopkins, John Mack, David Jacobs, Carla Turner. Those were a few of the people that were focused on it. A few others I know here and there, but it's just a very murky subject. So when eventually the conversation gets past this point of, are they here? Are they not here? I think we're pretty much almost there. It feels like most people are on board now. It's broken through to the mainstream in a way that just is impossible to ignore. This is an open conversation that's happening publicly now. And there's going to come a point where the conversation moves beyond the question of, well, is the president going to say something, or how many more whistleblowers do we need before we really start behaving differently and acting like this is a real clear and present situation. And once we get to that point, then the questions are going to be, so what exactly are they doing here? What are they doing? Where are all these ships going? All these craft that are being sighted by our military pilots, like Top Gun fighter pilots, like when you meet these guys and talk to them, I mean, Ryan Graves, I talked to this guy, we were having a beer and we were just talking at this theater in Austin, Texas, and he's like, this is as rock solid as it gets, people. Like these guys are the best of the best at what they do. These are the trained professionals that have the best technical training and expertise to operate this equipment, to know what they're looking at, to understand what it should and should not be capable of doing. And he looked me in the eye and said, yeah, this is real. This is what we saw. It's scary. So the question is going to be, what are they doing? Why are they here? Why the enormous, Richard Dolan points out that these ships they don't just come from nowhere, right? There is a manufacturing and industrial base behind this. There is some kind of a support structure that is making these craft, that constructs them, that they are coming from a place, they are returning to a place, and we know there are multiple different types of NHI. So I would assume they're coming and going from different places. With that much activity, he calculated it in the first few pages of his book, Secret Space Program and the Breakaway Civilization. Richard Dolan's great book, very short, quick read, like a 20-minute read. But he put this out. It was I think a talk that he had been giving for a period of time, and then he wrote it down and published it as a volume. But in that book, in the first few pages, he calculates out based on reports that had been collected at the time. This is in 2016 when it had been written, when he published it. And around that time, he was like, there are, 750, give or take, sightings reported in North America in a given year, but that is a very low number because they're underrepresented. So if the way he does the math, he comes out to somewhere around 7,000, like a 10x multiplier for the number of sightings that were reported. And if it's anywhere between 1,000 and 7,000 sightings in North America in any given year, that's a lot of fucking sightings. I mean, for something that's practically invisible, if that many people are seeing things from time to time, and even if you account for all of the terrestrial explanations and you get down to like the very small percentage that are likely non-human intelligence or non-human in origin, there's still a lot. And it's not like it's slowing down, it's speeding up. And now they're coming from under the ocean. People are reporting all kinds of very weird stuff. So, the question is going to be, what are they up to? And what about abductions? Are people being taken? And if they are, why? Surely there are people that would fuck an alien willingly. And I think there are probably so many of those people that the aliens would be terrified. No wonder they have to have everybody sedated. Can you imagine? So what do you guys think? Let me know. I want to know in the comments. Paris Diamonds, quick question. Quick super chat comment. Thanks for this. What if data centers manipulate our consciousness through frequency? I think it's actually simpler than that. I think great question, great point, but I think it's even simpler than that. Data centers manipulate your consciousness through algorithms. It's advanced algorithms that are drawing upon 1 trillion data points that they have collected over years on you and me and everybody else. All of your internet activity is monitored. Everything you do is used to create a profile of you, a simulation of you that is used to predict what you'll buy, what you'll pay, how much you'll spend, and to serve you ads and to manipulate the way that you consume media to keep you consuming more and more and more of it. This is what we just found. We just saw this. Meta got sued for this, causing psychological distress and harm just by virtue of the way their algorithm works. So you don't need frequency manipulation to change the way people think. You can do it through algorithms, and that's already been demonstrated and proven in a number of different cases. A great example of this would have been also the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where they basically were able to influence the outcome of an entire election down to by manipulating people's voting habits down to the street level. The house on one side of the street, they knew which way that house was going to vote. They served it enough internet ads to reinforce that position or change it. And the house across the street with a different political outlook, they would feed that house different information and they would manipulate it to serve whoever paid them the most. So if Democrats come in and hired this company, Cambridge Analytica, to handle their social media strategy, Cambridge Analytica would deliver for Democrats. If it was Republicans, it would deliver for Republicans. They were just out there to make money. And that's not the only instance. That's just one instance from years ago of how this was done. But it's done every day. Resolute Decide says, Clint, what if we end up having to fight them as a malevolent oppositional force? Should we fight back even if we have little hope of victory? We always fight back. Never surrender. Never give up. Rock and roll will save us, guys. The power of rock. E.T. may be able to travel through time and space, but can E.T. plug into a Marshall stack and ride the lightning? I don't think so. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you for watching today and hanging out with me. Don't forget to go to teamnightshift.com and pick yourself up a bag of Night Shift coffee. Support the show. It is the best coffee you will ever drink. I promise you. It's in my cup right now. It's what I've been drinking this whole time. Night Shift the coffee is brewed or is roasted and shipped to you within 48 hours of your order. The freshest coffee on the planet. And seriously, I'm not just trying to hard sell you on the coffee. It is the coolest way to support the show. It's like if you want to help me and you want to help the channel and you want to help us continue to grow and do this Night Shift thing and expand and bring on more people, I want to hire an editor. I want to hire someone who can do bookings and just book interviews all the time. I want to expand what we can do, but I can't do it without resources. So every bag helps, every t-shirt helps, every cup of coffee we sell helps. If you are a member, thank you for supporting the channel. If you are one of our patrons over on Patreon, thank you for being a part of what we're trying to do here. It's a heavy lift to build this channel from scratch, and I need all the help I can get. So you guys make it happen. You make it possible for me to come here every week and talk to you and hang out and dig into this very fascinating, this most fascinating and strange of all topics. We have really got something special here, guys. Big things are coming for this channel. This year is going to be a big year for Night Shift. I promise. When we get to Contact, you're going to see some serious shit. Hang in there. Stick with us. Keep supporting the show. Keep that community strong. Be cool to each other. Be excellent to one another. Take care of yourselves and everyone else. Keep looking up, guys. And I will see you again soon.